Hi creative friends, I'm Jane from Sustain My Craft Habit. We're so happy to be sharing this new series with you called Thrifted Thursday. Each week we'll share one or two upcycling projects that we've completed in the previous week, and we hope they inspire you to look to the thrift store, look to what you have at home, and remake it into something beautiful that you can use. So let's get started. For the first craft, we're going to upcycle some wine glasses we picked up at the thrift store to make this super simple and cute craft that went viral on our Facebook page. So I started by tracing around the opening of the wine glass onto some cardboard paper and then cut that out with my utility knife. Next, I placed into the glass some beachy embellishments such as sea glass and seashells, and then filled that about a quarter of the way with some sand from the beach. I closed off the opening of the glass with that circle from the cardboard and then glued it in place with hot glue, making sure to seal it in completely. Then I gently flipped over the glass to settle the sand to the bottom, which helped the shells come to the top, and then tied and glued a little bit of twine to the rim of the glass. Finally, I added a votive candle to the top to finish off this adorable beachy decor. For our second upcycling project, we transformed this bright green lunchbox into a beautiful container for seeds from the garden. So this green lunchbox came as a promo item or a free item when my brother-in-law bought a case of beer. Steam Whistle is a Canadian brand of beer. And it's fun, but my sister asked me if I could turn it into something that she could use to store all of her seeds for planting in the spring. So I took it outside and sprayed it with a coat of white Rust-Oleum, just a white paint with a primer, and then let that dry completely. I had taped off the handles and the hinge so that they wouldn't get spray painted. Because this was going to be used to hold flower seeds, I decided to put on a really pretty floral napkin. I couldn't decide between the sunflower napkin that I had or this other one with a peacock, and I did this craft on a Facebook Live, and the viewers decided that the pretty peacock napkin was the way to go. Since I was planning to decoupage the napkin onto the flat surface of the lunchbox, I planned to use the iron-on technique, and this is my favorite way to decoupage onto any flat surface. So I simply started by taking apart the plies of the tissue till I got that one top ply with the pattern on it. I then painted on a generous coat of this Deco Art decoupage glue. It's a glossy finish glue, and I happen to have a large bottle of it, so I've been using it for all my decoupage projects. So I painted that layer on there and then let it dry completely, which is the best part of the iron-on technique, is that you actually dry the glue and then you're able to position the napkin or tissue however you need to without it sticking to your surface, into your glue, and wrinkling. So once the glue was dry, I positioned my napkin where I wanted it to go, and I needed to cut out a little notch for where the latch of the lunchbox was. I just used my utility knife for that and the help of some scissors. And then I used my Easy Press Mini and a bit of parchment paper to iron that onto the surface of the lunchbox. This technique is just so effective in getting a really smooth, non-wrinkled finish onto any flat surface that you need to decoupage a napkin or tissue or decoupage paper onto. I trimmed off the excess napkin on the top and bottom of the box and then wrapped the napkin around the sides. And I actually used another napkin to continue going all the right way around the lunchbox, making sure to line up the designs for a seamless finish. Next, I used my black acrylic paint and a wide paintbrush to add some checks along that front edge of the lid of the lunchbox. And once that dried, I continued decoupaging that peacock napkin onto the top of the lunchbox, carefully working around the handles by cutting out slits so that the handle could come through, and then lining up the paper so that you can't even see where the seams joined. I added a few black and white checks to the side panels of the lid, and then sealed the whole thing with a coat of Duraclear sealer. Such a fun way to take something that we weren't using and transform it into a beautiful new container that'll be perfect for all our seeds. For our third thrifted craft this week, we took this dollar store cow and dressed her up to create a new piece of decor with a thrift store frame. We picked up this beautiful frame at the thrift store. I think it was about $2.50, but it has this little mat in it that's fabric. So I did want to paint the frame completely, and before I did that, I coated the fabric section with a bit of the decoupage glue, which helps to seal it so that the paint later doesn't soak in and come out uneven. So I gave this a generous coat of the decoupage glue and then let it dry completely. Once that was dry, I painted the entire frame with a coat of white chalky paint. I used DecoArt's Chalky Finish Paint in Everlasting for this project and just worked my way around getting into all those little nooks and crannies of the frame. I probably should have done a second coat because the frame is pretty dark wood, but the kind of streaky, rough effect looked really pretty with this farmhouse inspired craft in the end. So you can go either way depending on whether you wanted a solid white finish to do 2 coats, or if you like this more rustic weathered look, then 1 coat was enough. While my frame was drying, I took my cow and gave her a whitewashed coat of white paint just to tone down her brassiness, I guess it is. We were really going for more of a neutral color palette with this craft. So I just used the paint that was already on the brush and gave it a quick light coat over the surface of the cow and set her aside to dry. Next, we decided to give that inside mat of the frame a black and white check design. This is really such a fun way to add texture and, I don't know, some sophistication to a project. There's something about those black and white checks that always seem to elevate a craft for me. So I just worked around with that same wide brush that I used in the previous craft and created those checks on the inside of the frame. We decided that our little cow needed a lot of sparkle, so I applied a generous coat of the decoupage glue and then sprinkled that with some diamond dust. This is a glass-based glitter that gives it just a huge amount of sparkle and shine. I wasn't completely sure how this was going to work out, but I thought it'd be fun to add a phrase to the sign. So I had this stencil in my collection that says farmhouse and decided to see if I could make my own cutout using this is actually a cereal box. So I traced out the design and then kind of thickened up any areas that were too fine. I then cut that out with my scissors. I must admit, I wasn't feeling this at this point. I was about to abandon ship, but then I thought, let's just trust the process and see how it's going to look in the end after I paint it black. And what a nice surprise. This looked absolutely amazing. In the end, we decided to cover it with diamond dust to give it some sparkle, but I actually almost regret doing that. I really liked how this looked, very stark and black against the neutral frame. I then used a combination of Gorilla Glue and my hot glue gun to put everything and hold it in place, and finally added on a little bow with some florals from the dollar store. And there you go, a few upcycled and thrift store elements to create a piece of farmhouse decor. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed these upcycling ideas, these thrift store makeovers, and leave us a comment, let us know which one is your favorite. If you're new to Sustain My Craft Habit, be sure to subscribe for more DIY crafts and upcycling ideas. Bye!